This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Food distribution is being stopped. Health services are being shut down. Life-saving aid is being tied up with no way to disperse it. It's fallout of the Trump administration's freeze on foreign aid and the gutting of its aid agency. But the repercussions are being felt across the globe. The CBC's Rosanna Hempel brings us more on how it's impacting research and on-the-ground support here in Manitoba.
Julie Lajoie recently got back from Kenya. This University of Manitoba researcher works on the front lines of HIV/AIDS prevention. Now cuts to USAID funding could shut down the 9 clinics they work with.
So yesterday we got a call saying by Monday you're shutting down all your activities, which is ethically, humanly unacceptable. We cannot let that.
Lajoie says any life-saving prevention work, including research, is on pause.
As a researcher, it is really stressful, but the impact for the whole world, for health, is tremendous.
The U.S. Agency for International Development funded projects in more than 100 countries. In the last 2 weeks, a freeze on foreign assistance has led to layoffs and programs being shut down or suspended. U.S. aid had committed more than $6 million for climate change adaptation through the International Institute for Sustainable Development here in Winnipeg. CEO Patricia Fuller says the freeze means they'll have to stop projects in about 30 countries.
Many of those countries are among the least developed countries and are small island states, countries that are highly vulnerable to the impacts of climate change.
Mennonite Central Committee says it doesn't get a lot of USAID funding, but many organizations it works with across dozens of countries do. Bruce Gunther coordinates MCC's disaster responses.
That means there's going to be a huge gap that needs to be filled, and that will mean more requests coming to us.
Lajoie agrees it's created a lot of chaos and uncertainty.
Without research, there's no proper health care, there's no new drug development. Without vaccine, we cannot prevent infectious diseases.
She says the world can't afford to take a step backwards and urges governments in Canada to step in. Rosanna Hempel, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Like many, Manitoba's manufacturing industry is welcoming the 30-day pause on U.S. tariffs. But it's just temporary relief, and the fear still lingers. CBC's Zubina Ahmed spoke with one company about the uncertainty of what comes next.
Cutting, assembling, glazing, and inspecting. An impressive 600,000 square foot Steinbach facility of Loewen Windows, where they manufacture premium windows and doors for markets in North America and overseas.
These tables, we actually build these massive units that are overlooking the Vail ski slopes or the Pacific Ocean.
Neil Fast is the president and CEO of Loewen Windows. Fast says 85% of its products goes to the US. He says Trump's 30-day tariff pause might be a temporary relief, but uncertainty lingers.
So it instantly makes our products much more expensive in the US. It may make our dealers less profitable. It will certainly make Loewen less profitable. And the worst case scenario is, of course, customers choose to buy from some other location.
Fast says they have about 700 workers in the Steinbach plant, and there's a lot of concern about the future of the US exports. They've had town halls with their staff who are worried about layoffs.
It's certainly possible, but there are several other actions that we're taking, and that would certainly happen first before we would look at layoffs. We have incredibly skilled employees, and frankly, we would not want to lose a single one of them.
Premier Wop Canoe said there is a need to Trump-proof Canada's economy. Fast agrees and says there are other markets that Loewen could export to.
So we export to the Caribbean already. We still have small businesses in the United Kingdom and Japan. We would certainly look towards Europe as well for other possibilities.
In terms of domestic demand, FAR says right now they sell only 15% of their products in Canada, which they're hoping to grow, but says trying to make up for the 85% of their sales that currently go to the US would be a huge challenge. Zubina Ahmed, CBC News, Steinbach.
A 37-year-old Brandon man is facing multiple charges after police say he was involved in creating child pornography of children in his care that was distributed at an international level. Brandon police say the man and his common-law partner are foster parents of young children. They also say a home daycare is operated within his residence in the southwest Manitoba city. Police say they were alerted by the National Child Exploitation Crime Centre. The 37-year-old man was identified as a suspect and arrested at a home in Brandon. Officers say the man's common-law partner and 6 children were also found at the home, and the children have been safeguarded. Manitoba's government is expanding a personal care home in Transcona. The province says it will spend $72 million to add 90 beds to Park Manor Personal Care Home. Most of the rooms right now are semi-private or have 4 beds to a room. The Park Manor expansion was initially promised by the former Progressive Conservative government in 2016. The NDP then promised to complete the project in 2019 when they were still in opposition. The expansion should now be finished by 2028.
Our expansion will increase the number of private rooms available, something that residents have been asking for a very long time, something that residents deserve to have after so many years of waiting. And you folks have waited long enough.
The NDP have also promised to complete a personal care home in Lac du Bonnet and build 1 new personal care home every year. A proposal to build affordable housing next to the Granite Curling Club has sparked a battle with the city. That dispute came to City Hall this morning. CBC's Cameron McLean has more.
Delegates packed the gallery in the council chamber for a hearing this morning. The city wants to subdivide and rezone the parking lot next to the Granite Curling Club, which the city owns. The University of Winnipeg Community Renewal Corporation has proposed building 111 units, with half of them designated affordable. Money for the project would come from the Federal Housing Accelerator Fund, but Curling Club Secretary Christian Pierce accused the city of ignoring their concerns.
We wanted to work together and purchase the property. Unfortunately, the city has chosen to implement a process that has given the Granite Board no choice but to oppose the subdivision and rezoning of the west parking lot, as that process has lacked transparency, good faith dealing, and fairness.
During the day, the Curling Club leases these parking spaces to Canada Life employees across the street. They worry that the loss of these spaces and the revenue they generate threatens the long-term survival of the club. Dozens of people came out speaking in support and opposition, with Curling Club members on both sides. Some committee members, including Russ Wyatt, questioned why the city only approached one developer about the property. Richard Maillet, who manages the Housing Accelerator Fund for the city, says the proponent has a proven track record.
They were uniquely positioned to meet the vision for the site under the narrow timelines. We had an existing template project across Canada Life that could fit onto this property.
The affordable housing project would be modeled after the West Broadway Commons on Colony Street, which was a joint project with All Saints Anglican Church. Regardless of the outcome of the committee vote, the final say will rest with City Council. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Weather specialist Riley Laychuk is in now. And Riley, as I was driving around this morning, I was going over one of the bridges and took a little look over to the river trail, and it looked pretty empty this morning because of those temperatures and that wind that we were dealing with as well. My goodness.
Yes, not just a windy day here in the Red River Valley, Brittany, but certainly back to the west here. Some of our peak winds for today. And as always, take this with a bit of a grain of salt, because these are numbers at the top of the clock from the Environment Canada station. So I'm not saying we didn't see some windier conditions later and in between the hours throughout the day, but certainly I mean 60, 70 kilometer an hour gusts is windy, but factoring in that we did see some accumulating light, fluffy snow that has really caused some problems, particularly into the Westman and into the Parkland region, where we have seen some drifting snow, some blowing snow in pretty significant amounts throughout the day today. So a little bit of a different story into the Westman region through the afternoon hours. We have seen skies start to clear a little bit, some peaks of sunshine in Winnipeg through the afternoon, even a few scattered flurries in there throughout the day today. We'll start to get a little bit more clearing here in the Red River Valley as we get through the overnight hours. Minus 19 overnight west winds, still gusting to 30. We'll start to see those lightening up as we get into the morning hours. Tomorrow, minus 18. First thing in the morning, a partly cloudy sky in Brittany. We're looking at minus 14 by the afternoon. A sunnier day tomorrow and a significant drop in temperatures coming into next week. I'll have that when I come back.
Okay, thanks so much, Riley.
You're welcome.
The Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs has a new woman sitting at the helm, and it's a familiar face to many. We check in with the new Grand Chief and hear about her vision for First Nations in Manitoba. Straight ahead. In a decisive vote, Kyra Wilson was elected as the new Grand Chief of the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs. She will represent 63 First Nations across the province as the second woman to hold the position. Grand Chief Kyra Wilson joins me now. And Grand Chief, thank you so much for being here and congratulations.
Thank you so much for the invite. I'm honored to be here.
I want to start with this new role. It's a big role, and it's one that you've won with a really strong mandate to lead. So I know you're still getting your feet wet, but what are the priorities for you as you start to tackle this position?
Well, first and foremost, I want to be able to come together with our leadership here in the region and, just discuss, what the priorities are. I've already had those conversations with our leadership about what the needs are for their nations. And so I just want to be able to come together again and just ensure that, our priorities are all aligned and that all of the leadership have the opportunity to share those needs.
I know we've spoken to you a lot in your previous role as Chief of Long Plain First Nation, so you know the issues firsthand. Manitoba First Nations being plagued by a number of them over the years: child welfare, housing disparities, water. As your role now as Grand Chief, how do you start to move the needle on some of those issues?
Well, right now it's just understanding, the work that has been done previously, but also understanding what's happening today. There are many different discussions that are taking place with not only with the organization of Assembly Manitoba Chiefs, but also with different levels of government. So it's just understanding the landscape and knowing what has been said and what the next steps are forward. So just really understanding everything and where we're at, and that will give me a clear idea on those next steps.
As I said, you are the second woman to hold this role. You succeed the late Kathy Merrick, who was the first woman to hold this position. I know the two of you had a very close relationship. So how has her legacy helped shape you? And where do you see yourself in this role?
Well, it's definitely an honor to be able to sit here in this role. And, when I think about the work, being in office when I was, in leadership for my own nation and even leadership now, I was able to, I was elected in my role as chief in Long Plain. I was the second elected female of my nation. And then ironically enough, second female here elected as Grand Chief with the Assembly Manitoba Chiefs. So, I just feel very blessed and very honored. And I was able to see, our late Grand Chief and the work that she did and how, she was a leader in so many ways, and she was a strong leader. And so I just take that from, our relationship and how we were able to work together.
Some of the video we've been seeing here is the work that both yourself and the former Grand Chief did as advocates for the Harris and Myron families, and that push to search the landfill. I saw Melissa Robinson next to you when you won this vote and give a little tug and a hug. What is this like now to be in this position as Grand Chief, knowing that this search that you helped advocate for and pushed for is now happening?
Well, it was a lot of work. I remember from day one when, it was shared with leadership in Long Plain that there were two women from our community that, were in the Prairie Green landfill, and we knew that we needed to bring them home, and we weren't going to stop. And that was the work, of myself and our late Grand Chief, as well as the families involved with that. And so it was a lot of work. And I'm glad that, the search is underway. But when I think about, missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, Two-Spirit, as well as our boys and our men, there's so much work still that we need to accomplish and we need to do. And that's what we are going to do here within the Assembly Manitoba Chiefs.
We know that search is ongoing and AMC playing a big role in that. Is there anything you can tell us about how things are going with that search so far?
Well, it's underway. There's obviously a lot of work that needs to be done with, searching a landfill. It's heavy work, and I commend everyone that is there right now, doing that search and, is in the facility and doing the work, it's a lot. It's very heavy. And, I'm so hopeful for, our families and our nations in this search. So basically right now it's just making sure that we're able to support the families during this time.
Grand Chief, thank you so much for joining us. And again, congratulations on your new position.
Thank you so much.
Grand Chief has a tall task in front of her.
Yes.
Heavy boots to fill, big shoes to fill with Grand Chief Kathy Merrick as well. Big boots being worn outside over these cold days. Probably a few extra layers of socks out there as well.
Particularly in the Westman region and in the Parkland and some of the more rural areas where we've seen some of that drifting and blowing snow throughout the day today, and some pretty considerable drifts in some cases today from
Put that
the wind.
shovel away.
So, keep the heavy clothes ready too, because we are in for an extended period where temperatures will be below seasonal. I want to start with the 10-day temperature trend just to give you a sense of where things are going as we get through the next week and a half here. So, I mean, this is one model prediction on where we're headed, but you get a sense of where we're going here. Our normal daytime high at -10, and as we get into next week, you see our temperatures, our daytime highs sinking into the -20s and really not budging much further than about -19 by the time we get to mid-month, at least according to this model. So we are looking at an extended period where we are looking at some cold weather, some winter air moving in. So as we look at our upper level atmosphere, you can see this deep ridge in the jet stream here starting to work its way a little bit further south. That's going to allow more of this Arctic air to flow south into the prairie provinces. And you can see as we get into Monday morning, some of that coldest air over Saskatchewan and Manitoba, and it just kind of stays put. I mean, a bit of a reprieve into Tuesday as this starts to make its way off into northern Ontario, northern Quebec, but right behind that, a little more cold Arctic air making its way in. The trade-off is not much in the way of precipitation coming over the next couple of days, at least for Manitoba. Maybe we see some flurries as we get through Sunday, but at least as we get into Friday, we start to clear out. Winds still staying a little gusty overnight tonight. We'll start to see those lightening up as we get through the day. Tomorrow, you can see these arrows kind of getting back to blues and greens. That's some of that lighter wind as we get overnight Friday into the day on Saturday. Mostly sunny skies across the province. I mean, a few clouds hanging around, but we will see some sunshine as we get through Saturday and into Sunday. That's when I mentioned that we do have a chance, at least, of seeing some scattered flurries according to some of the forecast modeling. So we are in for some brighter conditions, albeit much colder than seasonal as we get into particularly early next week. Your wake-up temperature is actually fairly seasonal for overnight temperatures really for this time of the year. -18 in Winnipeg first thing, -19 in Dauphin, -21 in Brandon. I mean, that's fairly seasonal for a wake-up temperature for early February, and a bit colder into northern Manitoba, -24 in Lynn Lake, Thompson at -23. So here are the numbers as we head into the next 5 days here. -14 through the afternoon hours tomorrow, -16 for Saturday. There's that chance we could see some scattered flurries as we get into the day on Sunday. And then Brittany, there's that drop in temperatures back into the -20s as we head into Monday and Tuesday. But you'll notice we have sun on all of these days at least.
The positive
I'm
there.
trying. I'm really trying.
Thank you, Riley.
You're welcome.
Well, not a bad day to be a flag flying in the wind today. We have more to come after the break. Stay with us. Donald Trump's tariff threat continues to create worry and work at all levels of government. The Prime Minister met with the mayors of major Canadian cities to discuss their role on Team Canada, including Winnipeg's Mayor Scott Gillingham. It comes a day after his latest tariff talks with the premiers. Kate McKenna reports.
The Prime Minister reiterated again today Canada's got a plan to stay resilient against Donald Trump's tariff threat.
We're doing more than just bracing ourselves.
He spoke to the mayors of Canada's big cities, who say they play an important role on Team Canada.
We are the engines of growth and innovation and opportunity. And at times, like these times of uncertainty, it is cities, not only the provinces and the federal government, but it is cities that must take action.
They're talking about diversifying trade and knocking down interprovincial trade barriers.
We're convening provincial and territorial leaders to do the vital work of breaking down the barriers that hamper interprovincial trade.
But the government won a 30-day tariff reprieve by promising to crack down on illegal drugs and migrants crossing the border, including a proposal to appoint a fentanyl czar sometime soon.
I see this person as a person building relationships with the United States, a person building relationships with Mexico, and I see this person as just a conduit where everything that's being done from a government, a federal government perspective, flows up to this person, who then is in a better position to brief the Prime Minister or Cabinet.
The fentanyl czar's role will be to help us integrate what is a whole of society challenge.
Some, including NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, question whether the border is what's really behind Trump's tariff threat.
What Trump, though, is really about, and it is very clear, he is about making Canada the 51st state. That is what he is about. He has made that very clear. We don't need to guess about what his intentions are. He has repeated it.
Canadian premiers are heading to Washington next week. They'll be meeting with American lawmakers and trying to convince them that tariffs are a bad idea. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.
Canada Post has laid off dozens of managers in an attempt to save money after years of severe losses. No unionized workers were impacted by the job cuts, but talks to renegotiate their contracts are ongoing under what the Crown Corporation calls a critical financial situation. Brett Ruskin has details.
These layoffs include 3 senior executives, including Canada Post's chief financial officer. Now, in addition to that, there was around 50 or so managers that were given their layoff notices this week. The majority of those layoffs coming in the Ottawa region, some in Toronto, some in Montreal, and some in other parts of the country as well. Now, a spokesperson for Canada Post saying this is part of a corporate-wide restructuring and that it's not going to affect any day-to-day operations at Canada Post, parcel delivery, letter delivery, things like that, because these positions were internal management roles. They continue on to say that they don't have an estimate yet as to how much money this will save for the Crown Corporation, but they do say that there will be no unionized positions affected by these layoffs. There was the strike that took place late last year from mid-November until around mid-December for about a month or so, with operations shut down. Since that time, union representatives for Canada Post as well as management for Canada Post have been attending government hearings. The latest update on those hearings, as they try to sort through negotiations, sort out a new contract for workers, is that we should have a report into that process by around May of this year. Brett Ruskin, CBC News, Halifax.
A U.S. judge has temporarily blocked Donald Trump and Elon Musk's drastic plan to cut down the federal workforce. Millions of American civil servants had been facing a deadline to resign with a buyout package by midnight. Caroline Bargut has the details from Washington.
Unions representing 800,000 federal workers filed a lawsuit asking a judge to temporarily halt Elon Musk's buyouts. Musk had given 2 million workers until midnight Thursday to decide if they will return to the office full-time or give up their jobs altogether and keep getting paid until the end of September. Hours before that cutoff, a judge extended the deadline to Monday and ordered a new hearing to take place on that day. U.S. President Donald Trump has put Musk, who is considered a special government employee, in charge of the Department of Government Efficiency, also known as DOGE. His mandate is to get rid of wasteful spending. Democrats are calling for Musk to be fired.
An unelected, unaccountable billionaire now has seemingly unlimited powers over Americans' private data and over Americans' taxpayer dollars. It seems every hour brings more news about a new threat Elon Musk poses to working people, a new way that Elon Musk wants to take your hard-earned money and keep it for himself.
The buyouts are part of Musk's plan to cut the federal workforce by 10%. So far, more than 40,000 bureaucrats have accepted his offer, far short of his 200,000 goal. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt told reporters she expects that number to rise.
It's going to save the American people tens of millions of dollars, and we encourage federal workers in this city to accept the very generous offer. If they don't want to show up to the office, if they want to rip the American people off, then they're welcome to take this buyout, and we'll find highly competent individuals who want to fill these roles.
If Musk doesn't reach that target, he and his team are expected to start slashing jobs and laying people off. The judge will hear arguments on the legality of the buyout program at a hearing on Monday. Caroline Bargut, CBC News, Washington.
Meantime, U.S. President Donald Trump has doubled down on his shocking proposal to take over the Gaza Strip. In a new social media post, he says the enclave would be turned over to the U.S. by Israel after fighting ends and the Palestinians are relocated. As Sasha Petrusik reports, it looks like the Israeli government is getting ready to hit go on that plan.
There's a lot of excitement here over the way that the new U.S. administration and the Israeli government have been coordinating their interests. For instance, the Israeli government withdrew from the United Nations Human Rights Council. Israel has accused it of being anti-Israel, saying that Israel will no longer tolerate the Council's blatant anti-Semitism. This follows on the footsteps of the U.S. also pulling out from this same body just a few days ago. This came with criticism from the United Nations, from the UN Special Rapporteur for Palestinian Rights, Francesca Albanese, who said it shows Israel's self-righteousness and that they just simply don't want to be accountable for their human rights transgressions. Now, the other issue, which the government here is in lockstep with Donald Trump, is this idea of emptying Gaza of Palestinians, 2 million people, afterwards handing Gaza over to the United States. The defense minister ordered the military to draw up plans for moving Gazans who want to voluntarily leave somewhere else, by air, by sea, by land. Many of the hardline settler parties here are also very excited. They have had plans to move into Gaza and to settle the territory themselves for some time. As far as the Gazans are concerned, they say they are not going anywhere.
He should know that we will not leave our country, and he should delete this idea of his mind out.
And of course, hanging over all of this is the question of the ceasefire. It is continuing. More hostages who were taken on October 7th, 2023 from Israel. More of those are supposed to be released this week. But this is a very fragile ceasefire, one that may not last long enough for all the hostages to be released. And in fact, the whole area may still go back to war in just a few weeks. Sasha Petrusik, CBC News, Jerusalem.
There's outrage in India's capital after the Trump administration deported more than 100 illegal migrants. Now, it's not over the deportation itself, but by the way it was carried out. But as CBC's Salima Shivji reports, the Indian government doesn't appear to be in a hurry to condemn it.
The fury was clear outside India's parliament. Members of the opposition party outraged that handcuffs and chains were used on Indian nationals forcibly returned to their country. The U.S. military plane was a first, even if deportations back to India are not new. More than 100 Indians living illegally in the United States abruptly sent back as part of U.S. President Donald Trump's immigration crackdown. An ordeal Harvinder Singh is struggling to recover from, one he says he wouldn't wish on anyone. Our hands and feet were cuffed, he says. They told us we were going to a detention center, but took us to the plane instead. Singh's family shocked to hear the shackles didn't come off until after the 40-hour journey back to Amritsar in northern India was over. Even the women were tied up, the deportees say. It was so harrowing, says Robin Handa. It's not the dream of a better life we were all looking for. The reports of mistreatment erupting into a political issue for the Modi government.
We have a legal obligation to admit them, to accept them in our country. But the manner in which it was done, in handcuffs, squeezed into a military aircraft, in such an abrupt manner, that is not acceptable.
New Delhi, keen to appease Trump on the immigration file, has repeatedly said it's open to taking back illegal migrants, a message the foreign minister repeated in Parliament, even as he promised a follow-up on how deportees are being treated.
We are, of course, engaging the U.S. government to ensure that the returning deportees are not mistreated in any manner during the flight.
But he says his focus is on cracking down on illegal migration, a key issue that threatens to derail the close India-U.S. ties that India desperately wants to preserve. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Mumbai.
Still ahead, from LED lights to geothermal textiles, how vineyards in BC are working to protect grapevines from extreme cold. We'll have more on that straight ahead. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. Stay with us. A new pilot program has been launched to address the underrepresentation of Black business owners and entrepreneurs. The announcement was made as part of a celebration of Black History Month. The province is spending up to $110,000, and the Manitoba Chambers of Commerce is chipping in $90,000. The money is aimed at providing resources, business development support, and entrepreneurial guidance. The province says it's the first time the Manitoba government has delivered supports directly to Black business owners.
This is what makes a difference, and this is the sort of things as to why it's so important that we have representation, so we can move the needle and ensure that more people are included in every facet of our society.
The province says in Manitoba, only 2.3% of business owners are Black. The program also aims to better understand and address realities, barriers, and opportunities specific to Black entrepreneurs. A pair of extreme winters has made for serious concern in BC's vineyards and questions around the industry's long-term viability. Now growers are turning to technology to stave off ruin. The CBC's Brady Strachan has the story.
The delicate buds on this grapevine are Bobby Arcego's most valuable asset.
Yeah, I just want to protect, this is the rootstock of the plant.
As vineyard manager at Black Hills Estate Winery, he's trying to protect these young vines from the winter chill. 1 year ago, extreme cold wiped out 95% of BC's wine grape crop.
We saw temperatures dip down to minus 27, even some minus 29 in areas around here, and that caused us to see extensive damage and death with our vines.
Arcego is using straw, composted mulch, and a technique called hilling, piling soil over the vine base to insulate his vines. These age-old practices are used at vineyards in colder climates. A newer method, these geotextile fabrics trap heat from the ground.
If we can't protect against the cold weather, we're going to be questioning if it's a region that we can grow wine grapes in.
An hour away, researcher Ben Min Chung is testing grape varieties for cold hardiness. He's helping growers test cold protection methods by measuring temperature differences between insulated and exposed vines. Even a few degrees can make or break a crop.
They can probably tolerate not lower than minus 25. When we see minus 25, that's pretty much, that's sure that's 100% lost.
Doesn't look like it's putting out a lot of heat.
At this Kelowna vineyard, Rowan Stewart is testing a high-tech solution. Strings of vacuum-sealed LED lights give off infrared heat to the adjacent vines. At a cost of $10,000 to $20,000 per acre, it's costly. But Stewart says even saving one crop makes it worthwhile.
You know, that's the nice thing about frost protection. You have it function one time and you've paid it off.
If successful, he'll expand this trial next winter.
I'm pretty confident we'll find a solution and we'll be back making amazing Pinot Noir and Chardonnay in a couple of years.
Brady Strachan, CBC News, Kelowna.
So many people always looking for creative ways to make sure that they are saving those goods because, my goodness, we need that wine.
Yeah, not as
Can't
much.
have those vineyards go down.
Not as much snow there. Clearly,
No,
as there is
not
here.
right now, that's for sure.
I mean, parts of the lower mainland into Vancouver did get some snow
Yes.
earlier in the week, this week.
I talked to my mom. She had 14 inches at the house up on the mountain. So they had quite a dumping.
Yes, quite a bit of snow on the west coast. We're seeing some of that on the East Coast now as well. Looking big picture, here's what's happening across the continent right now. So you can see we have some watches and warnings, or some watches at least in place right now through parts of North Dakota, into Minnesota, into the U.S. Midwest. This is because of an incoming winter storm that you can start to see forming on the Pacific coast. That'll make its way further to the east as we get into the weekend. Here's what's left of the snow that kind of moved through Manitoba. You can see some of the low pressure system there spinning. That's making its way off into the Atlantic coast where we're seeing a little bit more snow as well. The result of another system that brought some snow and some treacherous driving conditions to parts of the Greater Toronto area. So a little bit of active weather across the country. Not us here alone dealing with some of the winter weather for sure. Rusty and Cooper can't wait to go outside. I think maybe they might be waiting for some warmer conditions because we are in for a bit of a cold stretch as we get into next week. So minus 18 tomorrow morning in Winnipeg. We're looking at a clearing sky as we get through the night. Few clouds in the morning, winds gusting up to 30 out of the west. Northwest winds start to die off as we get into the afternoon, and then more substantial clearing as we head Friday into Saturday. So a chilly night ahead, albeit these numbers actually fairly seasonal for overnight lows for this time of the year. Minus 21 in Brandon and Verdon, minus 19 in Dauphin, minus 18 for both Gimli and Peguis. Partly cloudy skies, some clearing happening through the overnight hours, and then temperatures into the mid-minus 20s for much of northern Manitoba. To Dooley Lake, Thompson, Gillam, Shamattawa, slight chance of maybe a couple of flurries, minus 25 in Churchill tomorrow afternoon. Winds, as I showed you earlier, going to start dying off as we get into the morning hours tomorrow. So even by the afternoon, looking at winds 10 gusting 20 in the south, but still could see some winds gusting up to 30 in places like Churchill through the afternoon hours. On Friday, temperatures in the mid-minus teens tomorrow, minus 18 in the Pas and Flin Flon tomorrow afternoon. In the south, waking up around minus 20. We get up to minus 17 in Brandon by lunchtime, minus 14 for both Portage and Winnipeg, and really staying around minus 13, minus 14 through the afternoon in Brittany, where we have a little bit more cloud cover, a bit warmer into northwestern Ontario. Your 7-day forecast is coming up.
Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
Well, when we think of fashion in Canada, cities like Toronto or Montreal may come to mind. However, there are also many clothing designers that are based out of Winnipeg. This Saturday, some of those designers will showcase their talents for African Fashion Week Winnipeg. Shannalee Vidal has that story.
I'm Shannalee Vidal, and I'm here at the home of a Winnipeg fashion designer who's getting ready to showcase her style and her Nigerian heritage.
My name is Kofowarala Morgan Yusuf. I am a dressmaker here in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and I'm getting ready for the African Fashion Week to celebrate Black History Month. I've been watching it. Maybe not very many people know about our culture. There are a lot of us here, and I know that for every Nigerian or every African they see wearing our clothing, we are always calling attention because it's not normal. It's not usual from what they wear here. And now we're bringing it we want to make it normal. So anytime I'm going to work and I'm wearing one of my pieces, they ask me what the occasion is. I'm like, this is my regular outfit. And they're like, okay. So now they're used to it. Oh, Kofo would show up wearing, orange or something very colorful, flowery. I've noticed lately that our young teenagers don't want to wear our kind of fabrics, but then I thought of why not have it in styles they would want it. It's also what is trending in Nigeria now. So I also wanted our teenagers here, young adults, even the adults themselves, have a feel of, yes, we can be very far from home, but we're still close to home with, what we wear. And then one hand in your pocket. Yeah, see, perfect.
That love of fashion began at a young age for Morgan Yusuf. As a child, she saw her grandmother dressed in colorful outfits with matching headscarves. This inspired her to study fashion.
I was so passionate about it, and my instructors then were like, you need to slow down, you're going too fast. I'm like, this is what I want to do. Because I am African, I am a Yoruba girl, I am drawn towards using our traditional fabrics. I mean, fabrics like ashoke, fabrics like Ankara, damask. What I'm putting on is a mixture of ashoke and adire. So there are two different fabrics with different textures, and if you see it the way I have combined it, it looks good together.
Hi, my name is Isaac Gillen. I'm the CEO at African Fashion Week Winnipeg. So
something brighter than this, or?
Anybody from the diaspora that is working in the African industry, so we'll be presenting there and showcasing their work, pretty much in fashion, in art, in music, and dance. So we're hoping to have like a beautiful celebration of African heritage. Okay, now dress somebody.
Gellin grew up in Paris, where he worked as a model. He says barriers limited his growth in the industry.
The lady said we had one black person already as a model. So if we take you, that means we won't have a job for you. He said there is nothing about racism. It's about there is no market for black people. From the moment I know, okay, I have to create a platform, it's about diversity, it's about inclusion, so where everybody is welcome. It's not about color, it's about race, it's about talent.
As long as you like fashion, you like culture, no, it's for everyone. And I feel for you to live in this kind of place that is cold and everybody just wants to sit at home and wear blue, black, and dull colors. I mean, we can brighten up the day by wearing some colors.
Kofo Warola Morgan Yusuf is one of 7 local designers who will have their work featured at African Fashion Week Winnipeg. Shanley Vidal, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Maybe a bit of a windy day for a ski unless you're dressed for it. Riley's back with a last check on our forecast after the break. Stay with us. Well, it might not feel like it here in Canada, but Earth broke another heat record in January. The European Climate Agency says the month was, on average, fractionally warmer than January of last year.
we are seeing the impacts of climate change on extreme heat. We're seeing it on extreme rainfall. We're seeing it on sea level rise and storm surges if you're in a coastal area. We're seeing it in wildfire.
The biggest contributors to global warming are emissions from coal, oil, and natural gas. Some parts of the Canadian Arctic saw January temperatures 30 degrees warmer than average. It marks the 18th month of the last 19 the world either hit or crossed the internationally agreed upon limit, which was set as 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial times.
All right, looking at your Friday, expect a little bit more sun tomorrow and a little bit less wind. We're looking at a few clouds tomorrow, minus 14 in Winnipeg, our daytime high. Mix of sun and clouds, northwest winds at 10, gusting to 20. And that sunset, by the way, now at 5:34. It feels much brighter out there as you head into the early evening hours. Minus 16 into Saturday, minus 17 for Sunday. A chance we could see a few scattered flurries across southern Manitoba. And then comes the cold weather, breezy, minus 20 on the way for Monday, minus 22 on the way for Tuesday. I'll note your overnight lows here approaching or below minus 30 as we head into the middle of next week. And then temperatures staying below or at minus 20 through Wednesday and Thursday. But we do get a little bit more sun as we get into the middle of next week as well. Well, it's been really tough to blend in when you're young and awkward like me, not to mention bright orange.
But a 3-month-old baby silvered leaf monkey is standing out in the best way, making its public debut at the New York City's Bronx Zoo. Well, this species of langurs are found in the wilds of Indonesia, Malaysia, and Brunei. Over the next few months, the infant's coat will gradually change to a silver gray color. Even its face will turn dark over time. Their diet is mostly leaves. Habitat loss has been blamed for their population decline in the wild.
Cute as a button.
Right? So adorable. Those are the ones where you're like, I wish I could have one, but no.
What? We need to make it a little winter coat.
Very cute. Well, don't forget your coat if you're heading outside. Stay warm, stay safe. We'll see you here tomorrow.
See ya.